new theme in Moodle, and I've logged into your site here. I created just a generic faculty account to use for demonstration today, and I am assigned myself to teach this freshman comp course this coming fall. So initially, the first thing that you'll probably notice when you land in Moodle now that it's in 3.2 is it's had a bit of a makeover. And for the very first time you logged in, what you probably also saw was this little pop-up here that's called a user tour. And this is intended to show you, introduce you to those new things about the look and feel of Moodle. This is very similar to, you may have seen something like this on maybe your bank's website or your health insurance website, after it's gone under a major upgrade. It's sort of the same thing. It's intended to help, for students coming back in the fall, help make things a little bit more user-friendly and introduce them to where some things have moved around. So this pop-up shows up, and if you click on next, it'll highlight the new areas of the theme for you. So these are some of the things I'm going to talk about. And then, you can close out, or when you're done, you can just click on end the tour. And then at any time, you could always reset that from the footer of your page. And as we go in to look at a course, you'll see that there's a different user tour that shows up there as well. So the things that the user tour was pointing out on their homepage, the major new difference is the addition of I find it kind of funny because it is technically called the hamburger button, I guess because it does sort of look like a sandwich or a hamburger. So clicking on that button pulls out what's now called the navigation drawer. So in the previous versions of Moodle, you were used to having blocks on one or both sides of your course page, which sometimes made it hard to really see all of the content that you wanted to within the weeks and topics of your course. So in this new theme called Boost in 3.2, part of the makeover that Moodle has had is that this navigation drawer has really taken over most of what used to be in your navigation block. And then as we see when you get into courses, there is a new menu that has taken over most of what you had in your administration block. So those two main blocks that you were used to consulting as a teacher in Moodle in previous versions have now sort of just moved around. And then any other blocks that you may have had on the site or in your individual courses will still show up over on the right-hand side now. But what's nice is that you can collapse this navigation drawer at any time to give you more room to see sort of the main content on the page. So now if we go in and look at a course here that I'm pretending that I'll be teaching this fall. I land into the course, and you'll see we see a user tour now showing us what's new about the layout of a course. And the big thing that it's going to show you is the new sort of header area, pointing out the hamburger button again in the navigation drawer. And it also asks you to practice with some of these things. So this is kind of nice, will be nice to orient students to some of the changes when they come back this year. Or for those faculty who aren't attending this week's training, it at least gives them a starting point of reference. I'm going to talk more about what's in this course in a minute, but I just wanted to point out that so now what we're used to seeing in your navigation block is you see most of now here in your navigation drawer. And then in your editing menu, instead of having your administration block, you now have this gear icon, which has all of your course editing, turn editing on, getting into the gradebook settings, importing content from other terms, and so on. And you can see the other blocks that have been added all show here on the right-hand side. Okay, so that is a really basic overview of sort of the new look. It's a little more streamlined and designed to be more accessible, more user-friendly, and most of all, more consistent with what you're used to seeing on a mobile device. So now if students choose to log in and access their courses on, a tablet or a smartphone, the experience through the Moodle app, the experience will be really consistent to what they see here on the Moodle course within a browser on their computer. Okay. So moving right along, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the really great work that Colleen has done to sort of lay a foundation for the online courses being taught at Navajo Tech this summer. And you can already see some of that with the template here. And one of the things that is a feature of the new integration of Moodle is that, your courses, that you've had this integration for a while now. Now we're sort of taking it to the next level and giving some sort of boilerplate template content for you to use to build upon as a starting point. So you can see that my fall courses, because, there's still, another week or so before the fall semester starts, the way we have the integration set up is so that the courses remain hidden to allow you to update the content, update your activities, set up your grade book, all of the things that we're going to be talking about today before classes actually begin. And then automatically through the Moodle system, all of the fall courses will be made visible the day before their start date. And I believe that's going to be the August 14th if the course start date is the 15th. And we'll take a look at that. But the other thing that Colleen has done is set up this template that has a lot of great resources in here that can be updated, a really great resource block to point faculty and students alike to where they can seek additional help, and some additional tools that can be used by online courses. So Colleen, is there anything that you wanted to say about the template itself and how you expect those attending today to be using it?
Well, this template was actually designed for the older version Moodle. So this semester, what I would like to do is, because of the nice changes, is to work with faculty and update the template, even though it just got implemented for the summer. But I do want to work and really work with the online faculty to redesign this. I don't know if they want it in topics or if we just want it in categories or whatnot. So I'm going to work on that with faculty and to see, so the template may change, but the sidebar, the block on this side, I just want to show you this block. That's what she's talking about on this side, is our updated student learning policy and procedures, and also an agreement. The reason why we, part of the online education committee, we discussed how do we ensure our students are accessing and completing their online course. They read the student online policy and procedures, and they fill out that agreement form. And it's really up to you if you want them to, if you want to enforce it, for them to send it to you. A lot of the online students will send it to me, and I forward it to the faculty. And then these are just step-by-step instructions on Moodle and how to communicate with your instructor. And down at the bottom is our HE resources, because a lot of online students don't know how to contact different resources we have. And another great thing is that most of these services that we provide are part of the online education committee. And when you go to their page, they have a chat tool. So these online students can chat with these service providers. They'll click on the website and they'll chat with somebody or send them a message if they have a problem. So that's how we're taking care of that. The other thing is we have an online tutoring tool called NetTutor, and that is all subject areas experts. So if your students need online tutoring support, that's the one area they can access. And the other is an online whiteboard for those of you that want to record sessions or, you know, put a whiteboard. I know that Sasha with her math class, it's useful for her. So we purchased an online whiteboard. But throughout the semester, I'm going to dedicate Fridays for training, you know, different online learning strategies to help both
Great.
the faculty. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
Great, no problem. All right, so now I wanted to sort of let's go into, and now that everyone's sort of starting off with this template as a starting point this term, I thought it would be helpful to demonstrate a lot of, you know, the topics we had on our agenda for today actually within one of these courses. So the first thing I want to talk about is overall, sort of under the hood, the options that you have related to course structure and settings. Obviously, you know, Colleen has made some decisions as to, you know, what she included in the template, but obviously I wanted to also point out, you know, that there are other options, and it looks like she's going to be soliciting feedback from the faculty. So just to show you some of the other options out there for you to play with, you would begin by coming here to your gear menu and going here to edit settings. So this is where you can come in and edit the, you can come in and edit the start date. So, you know, I believe everything for the fall has a start date of the 14th as of now. But, you know, if your course doesn't actually, you know, meet until Wednesday and you want your weeks to run, you know, Wednesday through Tuesday, as far as, you know, assignments that are given and so on, you could come in and you could update that there. However, that would affect some of the weeks. So let's take a look at that. Let me just, I wanted to write one thing down while I'm thinking of it.
You can modify and add your own content here. Because I was using a standard template, I just added information here. So I just put dates, but you can take this out and put in your own course description here.
Yep. Yeah, this can be totally customized, but I do recommend, you know, keeping it short and sweet, because as you could see back on our homepage, that it does display with the course itself. So if you're teaching, you know, many courses, and each one has, you know, a page of a course summary, that would require a lot of scrolling for you on the front page. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Maybe just like the really brief catalog description or a few bullets of learning objectives would be appropriate here. And the same is true of summary files, but keep in mind that that would be possibly accessible to others than just your student, your enrolled student. So where I wanted to show you is you're currently using the collapsed format topic of this course. And what Colleen has done is sort of combine the best of the two sort of default course formats for Moodle. So one of them is weeks and one of them is topics. So if you come down here into course format, you see that you have weekly format and topics format. So weekly format is just the dates. So it would be, you know, August, since our course start date is August 14th here in our settings, that would mean week 1 would be August 14th to August 20th. And week 2 would be August 21st to August 27th, and so on until the end date that you set. What Colleen has done here, what you can do with topics is just, you know, you get topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, and you could give them the name as opposed, you know, unit 1 or the name of the chapter or the actual name of the, you know, the subjects that you're going to be studying for, you know, whether it's a week or more. But for college courses, you know, most of the courses are already laid out in a weekly format. So this combines the best of both, and it also allows you to have sort of this introductory area and add some other topics rather than strictly tying it to the dates on the calendar. So what's nice about this as well is that it's collapsed topics. So you can see here in this getting started section, you have all of this, you know, sort of pre-made material to introduce your students to Moodle and help them get oriented and familiar with some of the terminology and practicing with some common activity types. And then, but then you can close that and hide that, and then they don't have to look at it for the rest of the term. And you can focus on the individual weeks. So this combines the best of both because it looks just like you have in your syllabus with the week name and the week dates attached. And I'll show you in a minute how, you know, this could be customized if you needed to, you know, if maybe your midterm week is actually, you know, starts, maybe it's a little early because there's a break or something like that. You do have some flexibility to change that. All right. So with, also with collapsed topics, you have a whole bunch of features as far as, you know, like the colors and the icons and so on as far as how that displays. And you see you have a few more here. You can reset it back to the default if you play around with this and decide you don't like it. Another thing I wanted to point out while we're here in the course settings is completion tracking, which is already enabled for all courses, but I'm going to bring this up a little later. So it's important for you to understand that it has to be turned on at the course level first. And the same is true with groups. If you ever want to categorize your students into groups within your course, maybe for the purposes of, you know, breaking up your students for a discussion forum, it's recommended to enable the group mode here, the default group mode here at the course level first. So those are some things at the course level I wanted to point out. Most importantly, start date, and you can see here that our course is still hidden. It will be made visible for me automatically right now on August 13th. And if you wanted to set your course start date later, that would affect the visibility as well. So that's something to keep in mind. But now I haven't changed anything, so I can hit cancel. And I wanted to point out some of those areas of settings. Okay. And what's coming over from the template as far as some of the blocks, the collapsed topics format, and some of the orientation materials you have in here. Okay, so now we have all this great stuff in my freshman comp course for the fall. And, you know, as an adjunct, I'm ready to start, you know, putting my touch on this. So the first thing you'll need to do is come to your gear menu up here in the top right-hand corner. So for those of you who've used Moodle in the past, there used to be a turn editing on button up here. So it's the same idea, it's just been replaced with this little icon. And then you click on turn editing on here in the little menu that appears. So once I've done that, you'll see that all these icons appear. A little banner notification pops up for a moment to tell me that I can easily drag and drop files to upload them to the course. So I'll show you that in a little bit as well. But now we have all of our stuff. And I wanted to point out some of the editing icons and how you can change availability of some of these items. So let's say if you wanted to edit any of this content up here, each one of the sort of the header of each section of your Moodle course is called the summary section. And this section up here at the very top is known as the general section. So you see it named after the whole course right here because that's the name that it's been given. And then you see that each section also has its own summary. So if you wanted to edit the text of any of these areas, you would just want to click on the little, again, this little cog gear icon is sort of your universal, either that or the pencil. I want to edit this icon. So if I click on that, then I get a text editor. I can, revise the name if I wanted it to say, something other than, fall 2017. If I wanted to change it to say, say, welcome to freshman comp. Then I could modify some of this if I wanted to. And then when I'm done, I just need to save changes. And we can see that's updated here in the navigation drawer and up here across the top. Similarly, if you wanted to change any of these sections, if you wanted to just change the section name, the way you saw me just do, you can just click on this little pencil icon here, change the name, and then hit enter. So if you decide that you don't want it to be, focused around weeks, maybe you say, oh, I want it to be, unit 2. You could do something like that and quickly edit it. Whereas if you want to edit any of the other text within this section, the summary section, you would click on the little gear icon to get that text editor. Okay. So another thing I wanted to point out about the editing icon, so you can see, if I expand all of my sections here, you can see this little edit menu here in addition to your icon. And if I expand that, you see I can edit this section, I can hide this section, I can delete this section. So so maybe after the first couple weeks of the term, you decide, okay, I don't really need this getting started with Moodle anymore, so I could choose to hide that section. And then once I do that, you'll notice that it has this little label here. It's sort of grayed out and italicized to visually indicate to me that I can now see it as a teacher, but it's now hidden for my students. So that's a nice way too, if in the next several days before the term starts, if you begin to develop content, maybe let's say you have the first couple weeks prepped, but then you run out of steam on week 4. You could come in and you could hide, week 4 and ahead while you continue to post resources and assignments there away from students' eyes. You can also hide individual items within a week. So if I made this section visible again, so that all the stuff in it is visible as well, you can see if I expand the editing menu next to any individual activity or resource, I also have the ability to hide just that resource. And then we see that the link, again, appears in gray. This little label tells me it's hidden. So I can do just on an individual basis as well. If maybe there's an answer key that you don't want to be made visible until later, or a rubric, or just maybe something you want to post there as a resource for yourself and not have your students see it. So other icons you see you have in this little menu is you can indent, you can move things, right or left. I like to use the indent to sort of visually convey to students, maybe the order in which I want them to do things. I'll sort of stack them in an order using the indent feature. You can duplicate items. This comes really handy when, let's say you have every week you're going to have students submit, a 1-page reading summary. And that assignment, you're going to set up an assignment for week 1. You configure all the settings that you want, and then you can easily duplicate it and use that again for week 2, week 3, week 4, and so on. And all you need to do is update the name and update any due dates on it. So I'll demonstrate that when we get down to creating an assignment. So we've looked at our icons, changing availability of items using the hide show icon, that little eyeball icon. Now, so we've looked at sort of editing the existing text in the labels and the summary sections, the section titles in this course, let's take a look at how to add new files to the course. So let's say, so this is all great. We have our week are getting started. Let's say in week 1, one of the things you want to share is your syllabus. So I have a folder of sample resources here, and in here one of my items is my syllabus for English 101, Comp 101. So I have it here in PDF form. I do recommend whenever you're adding documents for your students, unless it's like a worksheet or a form that you want them to fill out and then resubmit with their contributions added to it, I would say add it as a PDF. It's more accessible, user-friendly. They don't have to have Word on their device to open up the Word document if it's a Word document otherwise. And with a syllabus, that's sort of like your course contract. So you want it to be a non-editable read-only document. So when editing is turned on and you have all your editing icons here, you saw that little pop-up flash by for a second that says you can drag and drop files onto the course to upload them. So I have my folder here with my syllabus in it. So all I'm going to do is select my syllabus. I'm going to drag it, drop it, and then it uploads it. But notice it does take, it just copies over the existing file name. So some of us may have, rather, cryptic or, secret code naming conventions for your documents that may not be super clear to your students what that file is. So that's why this little edit title icon is nice as well, because you can just say, oh, okay, so this is fall 2017 freshman comp syllabus. I hit enter, and then it renames the file for me. So any types of documents that you might have already for your course that you want to deliver via Moodle, PowerPoints, PDF files, spreadsheets, basically any type of file that you can think of, you can drag it and drop it into your course. If you go to upload an image, so for example, I have this picture of Jeffrey Chaucer here. If I go to drag and drop an image onto my course page, it'll ask me, well, what would you like to do with that? Do you want to actually see the image in week 1, or do you want to create like a link to it? So I'm going to add the media directly to the course page itself and click upload. And then you can see it adds it as a label. So that might be a little big. It kind of takes up a lot of room, and then you can't put anything else over here. So we'll look at a couple different strategies for where you might want to put in images or how you can resize images as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is notice this little crosshair icon here. You have it for your weeks, and you also have it for each item within a week or a topic. And what's nice about this is that even as you're developing out your course and you're taking some of these resources that you may have been delivering, on paper in the past, and you want to upload them to your Moodle course, sometimes, dragging and dropping things can get crazy, and you may place it in the wrong section. But that's no big deal. This little icon makes it really easy to drag and drop. So maybe, okay, we're only really going over the syllabus in week 1, and then maybe we'll talk about Chaucer down in week 2. So I'll drag him down there. So that just shows you how easy it is and how flexible it is. Maybe all of your students flunk an exam, or you're out sick, or there's a weather incident and the campus is closed. And you need to just shuffle around some lesson plans that you had. This makes it really easy to do that. You can swap around entire weeks. The content will stay the same, and just the name of the week will swap out. So if I do this, you'll see it swaps. It still says week 2 as the summary. It's still, the stuff changes. It's just the name. So this is because those names are hard-coded, the reason why they're not updating automatically. So what I mean by that, hard-coded, it's a custom name. So rather than using the default, and sometimes your drag and drop can be a little funky. Sometimes you just need a refresh. There we go. And if I drag this back up, there we go. Okay, now we're back in order. What I mean by that is if I go into edit settings here, if I go into edit section, we can see that because of the way the template was created, this has a custom name. If I were to remove this little checkbox, we can see it's grayed out. It's no longer giving me the option to control what that says. And if I save changes, we'll see that that topic is actually, since it's weeks underneath, it's filling in what would have been week 2, considering week 1 is August 14th, would have started with August 14th. So that's just something to keep in mind if you do to start editing these section headings, that the dates won't flip around automatically. You will have to manually update them. So if I go back into edit section now, I can, well, it looks like I sort of ruined that, but I thought I would save what I had in there previously. But you could go back and say, okay, now this is week 1, intro to course. All right. So the next thing, take a look at our agenda here, make sure we stay on track. So we talked about uploading files. So again, just dragging and dropping. If for some reason the drag and drop is giving you a hard time, what that typically means is you want to make sure that Java is up to date with your browser. Sometimes you may want to just try switching to a different browser. Maybe the one you're normally using is a little out of date, a version or 2 behind. So those are good tricks, but if you still are having problems, you can always come here to your Add an Activity or Resource menu. This is where you can see the full menu of the activity types that are available to you and the resource types. And then in that case, you would just select File and click Add. You would give it a name. And then you can, again, you can drag and drop, but if that's not working for you, you can come click on this Add a File button here. This opens up sort of your file picker. You click on Upload a File. And then, so you can see this is, significantly more steps to go find the file that you have, that you want to share. Open, upload. So the drag and drop is definitely your friend. Sad to think about a day before that drag and drop existed, but I remember it well. Okay, so the same is true. You just give it a name, and you would upload the file the same way, just a few more steps to go looking for it on your computer. While we're here, one thing that I wanted to mention that is sort of, I guess, one downside to when you drag and drop files into the course to upload them is you see, and this is one of the things that is introduced in this intro section up here about completion status. You see this little blurb. And you see these little check boxes here everywhere for all the items. And that was what I pointed out back at the course settings. The completion tracking was already on. And that's what enables these checkboxes to show up. And when it comes, what this means is that you can set criteria as a faculty member as far as, what did has a student completed this? And you get to determine what complete means. But when it comes to resources, those files that you upload, typically the only thing that you can really track is that they clicked on it, they viewed it, you don't really know that they read all 100 pages of the PDF or watched all 20 minutes of the video you shared. But this at least would tell you that they did access it. Right now, you see that each of these checkboxes has a solid outline. That means that, and if you hover over it, that as a student, I could just say, oh, okay, yep, I looked at the syllabus and I'm gonna mark that off as complete. But if you want to have more control over what's considered, complete, when it comes to a file like this, so if you want to determine whether everybody has looked at the discussion rubric that's going to be used for this course, you can come here to activity completion, and rather have it be manually marked as complete, you can say, show it as complete when the conditions are met. And the condition is that they view it. So they have to have clicked on it, accessed it. So we're going to keep looking at these settings as we start to add different types of activities. As I mentioned with resources, they're pretty static. The student, views them or watches them or they don't. But when we get into activities like assignments and so on, you get more options as far as what's considered complete. So I wanted to just introduce it here. And then if we click on save and return to course with this particular file, you'll see now the difference between this PDF and our syllabus and as far as the check mark goes. The student has to click on this and view this rubric PDF before the system will check it off for them as complete. Okay, so now I want to show you how to add links. So files are easy, links are just as easy. You're going to start with your add an activity or resource menu. And then at the very bottom here under resources, you would select URL. So I'm going to click on add. And then I give it a name. So, maybe in week 1, you want them to, maybe go buy a book on Amazon. So copy Amazon books. Books, use books, yay. Okay. So maybe you want them to go buy a certain book that you're going to be reading. So you would give it a name. You would paste in your URL here. And then whenever you're sending a student to a website that's not Moodle, so Amazon, maybe the New York Times or some sort of, news source, or especially YouTube. If you're going to send them, if you're going to set up a link to YouTube video in this way, I think we've all been there where you click on one link that someone sent you to a YouTube video, and then 2 hours later, you're watching something totally different, like cat videos or something. So that's why I recommend that you set your external URL, so outside of Moodle, to open in a pop-up or a new window wherever you have a chance. That way they can see, whatever you posted in Moodle. Oh, what book is it? What's the ISBN number? Who's the author? Oh, and look at Amazon at the same time. Or look at the discussion questions you've posed for them to consider while they watch the YouTube video side by side. So that would be the only thing I would change probably here. You could modify the activity completion, but this is something that, maybe students would want to check off on their own. And then you can just hit save and return to course. So now we have, a little icon showing us this is to a web page. And when I click on it, it will open in its own pop-up here. And then that way I can look at the syllabus and see, oh, okay, this is the book I need to go get. And or link them directly to the book, which would probably be better. But you get the idea. All right, so that is one way to add a link. Another way to add a link, and I want to show you a few different ways to add, other links, images, media, is by using the page resource. The page resource is really valuable if you want to provide, a bunch of instruction, context to your students without having to just upload another document for them to have to download or view. So if you go into Add an Activity or Resource again, and you select Page, and you select Add, one of the things that I've liked to do in courses I've taught is create, maybe a week 2, unit 2, an overview page where, you would outline the required reading, the optional reading, the, learning objectives, the, assignments or deadlines, whatever it might be. And you can provide a little bit more of a narrative here than you could provide, just within this little section here. This summary section, I typically like to use for maybe like a to-do list. So like read chapter 1, look at the PowerPoint, post to the discussion forum, take the quiz. And then in a page, I can go into more depth about, the discussion topic, what things I want them to consider while they read. Maybe your lecture notes or a summary of something that happened in class on this page. So in addition to, you have your regular text editor here, and then you can add links on anywhere you have this text editor as well. So let's say, the required reading, I'm sending them to the New York Times, for example. So I can just highlight this text and then click on my little link icon here in my text editor and then say, I'm going to send them to New York Times, and I want us to open in a new window, again, because I'm sending them outside of Moodle. Another thing that you could do is, rather than just to a URL, you can use the same method to embed a link to a file anywhere. Maybe you want to include, an article in the description of a quiz, and then they have to read the quiz, read the article and take the quiz. Or you want to link back to the rubric you're going to use, or link within a forum to another resource that you think students might be interested to as it comes up in a discussion. So this little, these link icons here in your text editor are really powerful ways to add a hyperlink to just about anything. So I'm going to select open a new window and create a link. And we can see now it appears in red to indicate to me that this is now a hyperlink rather than just regular text. Let's say I wanted to share, a YouTube video with my students. Let me just see if I can find your YouTube channel. Looks like I found you. Yeah. Doesn't look like your official channel, but.
Yes, that top one is there.
Top one is you. Okay, beautiful. All right, so I'll take that one just as an example, rather than just put some random YouTube video on your site. So you can, again, you could hyperlink directly to this link. You could put it as a link on the course page, just as we did before, but it's not showing because I haven't refreshed. Just as we did to Amazon. But what I really like about using pages is you can embed your YouTube videos directly on a page, and then that makes it easy for you to like list any questions or things to consider, things to look out for while they watch the video. So to do something like that, it takes a little bit of working with HTML. Sounds a little scary, but it's not that bad, I promise. So all you would need to do is, rather than just grab the URL, you would click on, and most video sharing sites have this. It's, you know, like Vimeo, YouTube, Khan Academy, all of those, you know, educational video sites typically have some sort of embed option. And when you click on that, it gives you this little snippet of code. And this is HTML code. And if you expand this option down here, you can control, you know, how big the video is, if you want to make it a little bigger. I like to, excuse me, I like to make sure that I deselect show suggested videos so that, you know, they don't go down that YouTube rabbit hole and start watching something else randomly that they see in the suggested videos. You could remove the player controls if you want them to like watch it all the way through and not be able to pause it, rewind, or so on. You could do that. And then once you've tweaked the settings to your liking, you can come here and copy this little bit of code. And I just did Control-C to copy on my keyboard. And then over here on editing my page, I would want to click on, toggle this little icon here to toggle the source code, the HTML code view of my content here. So if I do that, you see I now see it in source code. And all I need to do is paste in that little iframe snippet that I copied from YouTube. And when I toggle back, you'll see that the video has been already embedded on the page. So really simple and nice, because then you're not sending your students away from Moodle. They can stay right within the course and be, you know, have a narrative and some educational objectives, you know, so, like right there next to it for them to consider, rather than just send them a link outside of the site. If you have a really long narrative, like right now I just have very basic list here and then my video, you could, if you had a bunch of text, and you, let's say you wanted to put the video, you know, in between, you know, a few paragraphs of text. What I like to do for those that aren't really familiar with HTML, and it's a trick I use, just easier on the eyes, you can put a visual sort of placeholder for yourself where you want the video to go. So for example, I can just like hit dash a bunch of times here so that when I toggle my HTML, I can see that in the code and I can go, oh, this is actually where I wanted to paste in my iframe. I'll remove the second one, and then if I toggle back, now we see it in between those list of options. That's a little trick that I use to just help place an embedded video exactly where I want it if I have a larger narrative that I want to frame it within. And then similarly here to activity completion, I could say that I want to require that students view this page for it to be considered complete. All right, so I'm going to click Save and Return to Course first so you can see how that looks back on the course page. And then when I click on it, you can see that it's just an on-screen page, nice and clean. I can have the YouTube video here, along with any other context that I wanted to provide. Another thing that I wanted to show you about pages and the text editor. So I'm gonna, if you're already, so let's say I'm on the page now and I say, oops, I see a mistake, or there's something that I wanted to change or add, rather than go back to the course main page and then click on Edit Settings again, notice you have the editing icon right here. So I can just click on it and say I want to go right back into Edit Settings for this page. So the other thing I wanted to show you was about images. So before you saw, you know, we just dragged and dropped. That will also work in the Addo area. You'll just pop it right in there. And then once it's in there, you could select it, click on it, And then you see this image icon here. This is also how you could start the process. You could click on the image icon and then browse your computer for the file, or you could just drag and drop it into your text page and then modify it. So now that it's in here, I could say that, this is Chaucer, my, alternate text for anybody who might be using a screen reader. I could add that in so it's accessible. Or I could resize it or change the alignment. So let's say, I want this to only be 100. And then it'll auto size the proportions for me and I can hit save. So you could do plenty with images as well, right within Moodle using the text editor. And this Addo editor has a lot of great tools. You can insert tables, equations, audio. If you have a whole Word file you want to bring over as a page, you can do that as well. Lots of great features right here within your little WYSIWYG editor. Okay, so I'm going to hit save and return again. And let's look back at our agenda. Okay, so we've covered sort of most of the resources as far as, files and pages and links, adding media to those pages. Let's take a look at how to add an assignment. So as I mentioned earlier, let's say in this pretend Comp 101 course I'm teaching that each week I'm going to have students submit a brief paper, whether it's a reading reflection or a journal entry or a creative writing piece, whatever it might be. So I'm going to start off, again, let's say week 1 is sort of a wash. We just review the syllabus together, get to know each other. Week 2 is where you're really going to start to be asked to do some work. So I'm going to begin by clicking on this Add an Activity or Resource menu here, once again. And now we're looking at the activity section. So what's nice about this is that you could click on any one of these little radio buttons. And if it's something that you're not familiar with, it'll tell you a little bit about what this assignment type does and how you might use it in a course. So, today's training, we're going to cover some of the most popular ones that you'll likely be using in your teaching. But I encourage you to, explore maybe some of the other ones. Like glossary is a really cool one that for certain subjects could be a really nice addition to a Moodle course. And it tells you a little bit about what it can do, the fact that, you could set it up as a glossary for your students, or it could be sort of collaborative and students have to build the glossary themselves throughout the term. A lot of great things you can do with different activity types. But to start off, we're going to deal with sort of the most traditional, I'm going to submit a piece of work, a file, a document to my professor. So I'm going to click on assignment and I'm going to click add. And again, I know that I'm going to be having a similar assignment due each week. So I'm going to sort of, with that in mind, develop a template for myself. So I'm just going to start, week 2 paper or week 2 assignment. The description, I might, leave blank for now, and then I can customize that for each weekly paper unless they're all the same. Additional files, if there's a, guidelines, project guidelines, or a rubric file, or, something they need in order to do the assignment. If it's a worksheet you want them to type into and resubmit, you can attach something like that here. Then down here, you have your availability section. So this controls when the assignment becomes not visible to students, but will allow them to submit work, so allow submissions from. So by default, Moodle is saying, oh, okay, I'm assuming you want to start right now, August 8th, and it makes it due a week later. And notice that this is a 24-hour clock, so do keep that in mind. But again, I want to keep this as a template for myself, so I'm going to check these off so that I can go in and set the individual due date for each of my assignments, maybe a little later. And then this cutoff date here is a really nice feature. If you have, as I did when I was teaching online, I sort of had a blanket 2 weeks late work policy. If it's more than 2 weeks late, I'm not going to grade it. So let's say in our hypothetical situation, the term starts next week. So the assignment is given on, well, this is week 2. So the assignment is given on the 21st. The due date is the 28th. And I'll be generous and give them, you know, until the end of the day rather than maybe class time to do that. And then the cutoff date, I can use my handy dandy little calendar here to say, okay, 1 week the 4th, 2 weeks the 11th, that's going to be my cutoff date. So if it's more than 2 weeks late, they just can't submit it anymore. It gets flagged, their submission gets flagged as late so that you can take that into consideration when you're grading it. If you penalize it a certain number of points, if it's, 1 day late or 5 days late or whatever your policy might be. This is another sort of brand spanking new feature, which is pretty cool. And I wish I had while I was still teaching. Might have to go back to it just to try it out, is to remind me to grade by. So now, rather than all of these dates being really student-minded, this one is for the instructor. This sets a reminder to say, okay, now it's time to grade it. So let's say by the due date is August 28th. So let's say, maybe on August 30th, I would like to have a reminder to go in and start grading those assignments. Okay, so as far as the format of the assignment, the default and the most common type is asking the student to upload one file, and that could be, any file type you want, Word document, PDF, spreadsheet, PowerPoint. But this is another new setting where you could specify accepted file types. I know some faculty like to be sticklers about having it in Word format. They don't want any, OpenOffice or Notepad or Google Drive or, anything like that. They just will only accept a Word document. So you would specify the file extension. So you could do, .docx as your file extension accepted type. Or if you do an online text, you also have a word limit. But that requires that, all that means is that students get a text area like this, and they type their submission into that. Good for more maybe informal writing, but if it's something that you're going to be grading for, and editing, I find it more easy to do that within a separate file. It's hard to mark up as a faculty to grade it if they're doing it actually within Moodle. But you could enable both as well. the defaults are already sort of the defaults for a reason. But if you're interested in tweaking any of these, and this is why I think creating a little template for yourself is nice, so you can go through and think about how you want to use the assignment module once, and then you don't have to do this every single time. So, you know, maybe I do want to require students click the submit button. I'm only ever going to allow them another attempt manually, or you could do it until they get a certain grade that they'll keep letting them try again. You know, notifications, whether or not I want to be notified when they submit, whether students get notified when you grade it, and so on. And notice these little blue help icons. If you're ever unsure, should I change this setting? Clicking on this little icon does a pretty good job of telling you what that setting does and help you determine whether or not you might want to try changing it and see what it does.
So what is
how that works for you. I'm sorry, what was that? You broke up a little bit.
The rubric, if faculty use a rubric to grade?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you want to use a rubric, then you would come here under the grade section. And then by default, when you set up an assignment, it's going to assume you want to grade it out of 100 points. But if you decide, you know, that these weekly papers are going to be based off of a set rubric that you use to evaluate them, you could come in and you would change the grading method to rubric here. And then once I save this assignment, it'll prompt you to configure the rubric. And we'll take a look at that in a second. Another nice setting that in previous versions of Moodle used to be buried in the gradebook, but now within each activity, so assignments, quizzes, forums, and so on, you can come in and specify a grade to pass, which is cool if you want to tie other types of activity, completion, items, and so on to that. So, you know, maybe you want to foster a high level of mastery and you want it to be at least 80 out of 100, or, you know, something like that. You could specify that here. We're going to stick with the rubric for now, and I'm going to remove my due dates, because if we do use this as a template, if you're going to set up your rubric as a template, you could always come in and apply the dates later once you duplicate the assignment. It'll make more sense once you see me do it. So now, again, I also want to show you activity completion. So now that we're dealing with an assignment where it's actually asking the student to do something, I have more options here. So I can say, show activity as complete when the conditions are met, and then it's auto-filling, well, they have to submit something, they have to do it. Or they could still, you know, submit something, but it's, you know, plagiarized or blank or garbage or whatever it might be. So maybe you want to say, well, actually, they have to receive a grade, or both, because they could receive a grade of 0 because they didn't do it, but that doesn't really mean that it was complete. So maybe that they actually have to submit something, they have to upload something and submit it in order for it to be considered complete. Okay, so now I'm going to hit save and display, and now it should prompt me to configure the rubric. And look at that. So now it's bringing me to the advanced grading page, and it's saying, okay, well, what would you like to do now? Would you like to define a new grading form, a new rubric, or create one from a template? So you probably don't have too many templates already, you know, on the site, but you can, you know, create one and then reuse it within courses, between courses, if you teach the same one from semester to semester. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I'll start from scratch so we can walk through the process of how that happens. And I'm just going to pull up an old writing assignment rubric I used to use as an example here. Okay, so I would give it a name, writing assignment rubric, or weekly paper rubric, or, you know, whatever's going to make sense to you, help keep them organized. And then you see I have my rubric here. And I could give it a description, but here's where you really start to build out the rubric. So you have some options down here. Do you want it by, ascending number of points, descending number of points? Do you want it by, do you want the students to be able to see the rubric before you grade the papers, and so on? You want them to see comments, the points, and here's where you actually build out that table for the rubric. So for example, in my rubric here, my first one was, the assignment criteria. So I'm going to add a criterion. I'm going to call it, content-specific criteria, and then I have my different levels. So just keep 0 here. Doesn't meet the requirements. Meets some or a few requirements. Doesn't like my bullets, but you get the idea. Meets minimum. Add another level, meets most. Add another level, meets all. So, and then you can see that you can also customize the number of points. So you can get creative if you want different criterion to have different weights. As you saw that I did with my rubric here, I weighted this criterion worth more out of 25 points than other elements of the rubric. So, it doesn't have to be a straight, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or something like that. But what you do always want to have when you build a rubric is you want to have a 0 column. Because otherwise Moodle will calculate the rubric grade incorrectly and will assume whatever the lowest point value is should be considered a 0. So it's a little funky, but what I always do when I build a rubric is I just, create an extra 0 column, which is just like didn't submit a paper or did not complete, as a placeholder, and then I build upon it from there. So the lowest option on your rubric, you still give them 1 point or 2 points, but you should always have a 0 column to ensure that the total score, as you continue to build out the rubric, Moodle is going to crunch when you grade it and click on the different boxes to score them using the rubric. It's going to take the total number of possible points and crunch those numbers for you. So you would continue to start adding, adding the criterion to the rubric. So the next one would be, purpose and support. And then you would do, the same concept. But in the interest of time, I won't continue to just copy and paste that. But once you are ready, so I could just save this as a draft and then come back to this later to finish it. But when you're ready, when it's polished and ready to go, you can do save rubric and make it ready. And then it will allow you to, when you go to grade the students, it'll show you their paper and will present the rubric to you basically just like this and allow you to click each one of the boxes, and there will be a field for you to enter comments to score it. It's really easy, user-friendly. I used it a ton. I use rubrics for both, writing assignments and discussion forums. I found it was, the best way to do it in a standardized way at scale in the online environment. Okay, so considering that we have just about a half hour left, I wanted to pull up the agenda, see if there are any questions. And since we're kind of doing a very condensed, typically these are 2 different training sessions, some of the more advanced things in addition to some of the more basic we're talking about. So I want to turn it over to the group and allow you to maybe weigh in on what you would like to cover within the time we have left. Or I don't know if this same group is planning on attending tomorrow, we could just plan to keep on going and then pick up where we left off tomorrow.
what is the group going to do?
So we left off with creating assignments and settings and rubric grading. And so we could talk about quizzes, we could talk about forums, we could talk about the grade book, other ways to communicate with your students besides email within Moodle. We looked at completion tracking, but there are some other neat things that you can do with that. So I'm happy to address whichever topic interests you most with the time we have remaining today. Any strong feelings, burning desires, things you want to walk away from today knowing? Okay. Well, hearing no volunteers, I guess I will just continue on with the agenda as we had it laid out, and then that way, but if you have a thought, feel free to jump in. And also I wanted to pause and see, are there any questions on what I've covered so far? All right. Okay. So I'm going to, Colleen, do you have a preference as to what we prioritize for today? Can you guys still hear me? Hello?
Pretty simple.
Hi. I guess I lost you.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It
just got very quiet. So.
Well, I know we're short on time, but what does the group want to do? Do you guys have any questions? You know, automatically you guys will be assigned to 2 courses, Moodle 101 and 201. And it's just going over.
Yeah, let me pull those up really quickly.
So you'll go, everyone, all the faculty members are automatically assigned, and students will be automatically assigned to a version of how to as well. So when you go log on, you're going to see Moodle 101 Course Management version 3.3, and 201, I don't remember the title, but you'll see version 3.3 in there. And those are tutorials and how-to. So what was reviewed here is also in that box. So you have a, is there anything specifically you wanted to see? But I really encourage you to be a part of all of you to be a part of the online education committee so we can work on redesigning the template and also implementing more support for us as well. This year, new as well, students will be charged a $35 fee for online courses, and those fees will be like supporting online tutorials and online tutoring. And like I said, we have subject matter experts for each of the areas, and it covers all areas. So, and that really was SIC. We have an online whiteboard as well. And I do want to implement quality matters so we can learn strategies for teaching. I know the semester's going to go by so fast, and it's so busy, and you get a full load and an overload as well. But if you want to be a part of that, you know, you can shoot me an email. Even if you don't attend, I send out minutes and the agenda, so you can still be informed of what occurs.
So the way it's been explained to me is the way I do my courses are computer enhanced. They're not web enhanced.
Yeah.
Okay. Are my students going to be charged a $35 fee for that? Is that what you're saying?
No, they won't. Only the sections with O&M that are fully online.
Oh, okay.
Fully online.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Because they complain all the time about the fees.
Well, I mean, it's expensive, you know, to put all these services online, because with Higher Learning Commission, you know, we have to have all the services that we have here on campus online. Yeah. And I'm looking at the most affordable means, and you know, it's challenging, as you are well aware.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I think what I want to do is go work this weekend or work the rest of the week setting up my courses, and then if I have specific questions, while you were lecturing, I went ahead and imported for one of my courses, and that seemed to work.
Oh, great.
I mean,
yeah, awesome. Yeah, that should come over nice and smoothly. I didn't get to demonstrate that. I'm happy to if anybody else is interested in the room, and you know, I welcome anybody to come back for tomorrow's session too if you want to play around between now and then and come back with questions. You know, Colleen, I'm happy to either, you know, if we want to talk, you know, tomorrow morning, and I don't know if you want to modify the agenda a little bit for the second group or pick up where we left off today. I'm happy to do whatever you think will be best for the group.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be a new group. Are you guys going to come back?
Okay.
Probably not.
I think it's going to be a new group because a lot of faculty that approached me said they were going to come tomorrow that weren't here today.
All right. Well then, Colleen, I'll send you this agenda, and then if there's anything you want me to like skip or condense for tomorrow's session, so that maybe we can pack a little bit more in to the time we have, then you know, feel free to give me that feedback.
Okay. I'll do. And if you guys have questions, I know we didn't cover quizzes. If you want to use quizzes from existing resources, because I know a lot of our book publishers have quizzes.
Yeah. Yeah. Quizzes are a little bit of that's why I wanted to pause before I just kept forging ahead, because quizzes is sort of a hefty topic. But as Colleen was mentioning before, all faculty are enrolled by default into these training courses, and one of them is I forget which course it's in, but yes, this one here in the Moodle 201 course has a lot of great tutorials and information and practice samples that you can look at for help building quizzes.
When are we enrolled up? Now. How do I find those?
Oh, and then you know, perhaps we can maybe I'll condense a little bit more of the earlier part of the agenda tomorrow, and so that we can prioritize getting to quizzes, and then you can make tomorrow's session recording available to everyone as well.
Okay, very good. I like that. Appreciate that.
No problem. Any other questions or maybe things you want to look at briefly with the time that we have left? We have about 20 minutes.
Review discussion. So in here, there's built-in discussion as well, and so there's discussions in here and communication tools. I mean, there's a whole bunch of features in here that we haven't covered. But what I would like to do is, like I said, on Fridays, I would like to dedicate Fridays for trainings and strategies for online learning.
Best practices.
So, yeah, best practices. So like on Fridays, like dedicate 1 to 2 hours depending on how the training is. If there's a big discussion, like talk about focus on one like discussion, the strategies on that. Sure, communicate with your students, or your students communicate with you. And we just talk about it as a group of what we're experiencing and how to implement that strategy. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. One last thing that I'll show you about activity completion while I have it pulled up here. So as I was mentioning, you can enable that tracking on each individual item, and you can see in this course we have it on pretty much everything. I really love this as an online faculty because you put a lot of time into the resources that you prepare and the activities that you set up for your students, and it's nice to know what they're actually taking advantage of or completing versus not. So one of the things I wanted to show you just with the few minutes we have left before we wrap up were those reports related to activity completion. So if you come to your gear menu, I'm going to use this Moodle 101 course because I know that all of the faculty already are enrolled in it. So hopefully we have some people who've already maybe poked around in here. And if I go down here to more, it brings me sort of to like an overview page. And then I can look at reports here. So I kind of like to work from the bottom up, or we'll do from the top down, switch it up. So the activity report here shows you sort of all of the stuff in your course divided up by the topic. And then it looks like, it's a little weird. Then it would show you a hit count and the number of views and when the timestamp of the last view was. Oh, okay, so here we have a couple down here. So we can see that it's been viewed by a few different users. Then if each report gets a little bit more complex. So this this activity completion report allows you to see, so in this case, we're dealing with all faculty, so there are quite a few people in here. But you can see sort of at a glance, a high level view. Colleen, I'm sure you'll find this fun. You can see all of the faculty and then whether or not they have engaged with these activities. And you can see the dotted checkboxes versus the solid checkboxes. That shows something that you set up criteria for versus something that that's maybe optional that they could mark off themselves. So this is really neat. And even though we have tons of users in the course, you can filter it by, first or last name of the alphabet. You can download it to Excel to look at a little bit, manipulate more from there. So I think these reports are really cool. Helps you kind of just see, so if it's an online course and, most of the time there's sort of like a baseline what students should be doing, posting to a forum, taking a quiz, submitting an assignment each and every week. So this kind of lets you see at a glance whether or not students are on track and can be useful for retention as well. Similarly, the last report I want to show you is if you want to drill down into a particular student or a specific activity, then you have this course participation report here. This allows you to look at a specific, activity or a specific, so I'm going to look at, this quiz about Moodle. I want to look back from the last, week and anybody in the student role, and I click go, and then it shows me, who has or has not, attempted this quiz. And then you could also, select everybody who's a no, and then send them a Moodle message to say, hey, you know, the midterm exam that you're supposed to be taking in Moodle closes this week, and I see half of you haven't done it. So this can be a nice way to quickly send out reminders to, you know, students who may be falling behind or aren't meeting deadlines. So that was just sort of a last minute topic I thought was worth sharing, that we didn't, was a little further down the agenda, but since we were talking about activity completion all along, I thought that would be sort of a nice way to wrap that up, as it's a new feature that has sort of been building in Moodle for the last few versions, but a lot of faculty don't know about, and especially if you're starting to teach, you know, web-enhanced, hybrid, fully online courses, I think these are really cool to kind of help you see the impact of your course design.
So in the earlier versions, there was, I think when I clicked on participants, it would show me has no, you know, hours since last login or something to that effect, or date. And that was my way of knowing who was active. Okay.
Sure.
But it looks like that completion matrix would give me a lot more information than just whether or not they're logged on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've struggled though just to get the students to use Moodle, even though that's how they have to submit all their work. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone there, but this is a nice way to kind of help hold their feet to the fire and encourage them to continue using it. You can do, you know, a lot of really cool things with it, as far as, you know, they only get that checkbox if they get an 80% or better on that quiz, or things like that. So there's a lot more you can do with that beyond what I just showed you. But another thing I forgot to mention that's worth pointing out since you brought it up is you do still have the participants page. It is here in your navigation drawer now. So if I click on it, this course doesn't have any enrollments yet. That's why I picked it. But so you just see me in here as the teacher that's assigned, but you would see all of your students here, and you will continue to see their last access, which at least tells you when the last time they were in the course was. But I agree wholeheartedly that those reports can give you another layer of information that will be useful to you.
Yeah.
Similarly, I also wanted to point out getting to your grade book is also here within the navigation drawer. So you click on grades here, and then that will bring you to your what sort of you're used to seeing your spreadsheet view of the grade book. I didn't put any students in here, so it looks a little funny, but you can see a column for all the different activities we added, and that came over from the template. And then, you know, you can still get into your setup here if you want to, you know, change the aggregation methods or set up categories. And again, that Moodle 201 course has a lot of great information about the gradebook and the different options, different ways you can set it up. But also from the main course page itself, you can get into directly to gradebook setup from your gear menu as well. So they've sort of consolidated some areas and given you a couple different avenues to get to, you know, administrative areas as a teacher that you kind of want quick access to. Another last thing that I'll sort of mention, you brought up import already. That is a nice, real clean way to bring over content from a course you may have taught in a previous semester. You would just click on import. I always like to, you know, I typically like to copy the short name. If you haven't taught a lot of courses, it'll show, you know, the list might be, you know, easy to select from, but if you've been teaching in Moodle for some time, you may have a really long list. So I like to, you know, maybe go find the course you want the content from, copy that short name so you can search for it here, and then choose to pull over all that information. But, so I got distracted on import. The last thing I wanted to say, a new feature that got introduced a couple versions ago that's really cool, and I think will maybe help faculty breathe a little easier, is a recycle bin. So now you don't have to be so afraid of, especially now, if you notice, you have you could delete an entire week or an entire topic. So now when they introduced that, they also introduced a recycle bin. So if you accidentally delete an activity with student, quiz attempts or forum posts, or you delete, a resource or a whole week of your course, there is now this recycle bin feature that, retains anything that was deleted for a week, so that you could easily retrieve it if that happened accidentally. So that's another nice new feature that I don't think many faculty know about, but thought was worth mentioning today, as it's a nice new addition in this version. Okay, any other questions or thoughts, concerns that I could help answer today with the few minutes we have left? Otherwise, I'll let you guys go.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Please, if you think of any other questions after the fact, or as you begin to play, between now and the start of the term, please feel free to, if Colleen can't answer them, that's what we're here for. So, she can always relay those to us if you have any, special questions or wondering what you could do with your course this term. So thank you for attending. It's always nice to have a good group. And I'll be following up with Colleen to make this recording available if you want to look back at it. And I do, as she mentioned, encourage everybody to take a look at those Moodle 101 and 201 training courses that you're automatically placed in, as that'll have a lot of great tutorials and practice resources for you to look at and refer to throughout the term.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're very welcome. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and Colleen, I'll talk to you at the same time tomorrow.
Okay, we'll see you then. Bye.
All right. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.